of IRL friends that aren't interested in Dungeons and Dragons, they don't know how to play, and they're more of a visual learner. So, I'm making this stream to sort of teach the basics of Dungeons and Dragons, utilizing a whole bunch of stuff, including the main part of it, which is going to be Baldur's Gate 3. Yes, Baldur's Gate 3 does not exactly translate, but what D&D campaign truly does translate to rules as written, unless you've got those type of people. But before we get into the game, and don't worry, it's right there. I've got it set up. We're gonna get into the other stuff first. What is Dungeons and Dragons exactly? Well, Dungeons and Dragons is essentially a massive game of pretend. With your friends, one person narrates the story as the main plot, sort of the overall big picture. And they're known as the Dungeon Master, the DM, or the Game Master, GM. They sort of drive the overall plot, do the main world building, or they use the campaign modules to help guide said events. And the players create a character that will live and interact in this world that the DM or GM create. And they will use their imaginations, and as they use their imaginations, they will be asked to do things such as roll dice. As you can see, like these dice here. And depending on the situation, depends on the type of roll that they do. The most common roll that you'll see is the D20. That'll do all the main sort of checks and everything that happens in the game. And the roll depends on the success of what you've imagined your character is going to do, which can make for some very entertaining stories. In fact, more often than not, the fails hold more memory than the successes, because the flubs, they can get some inside jokes. Like my games, for instance. A failed dex save is typically referred to as Potterism, because I had a dex-based character who couldn't make a dex save to save his life. Okay, so let's get in that. When you create your character, there's going to be some main attributes. You'll have strength, dexterity, constitution, intelligence, wisdom, and charisma. Now, what do these mean exactly? Well, strength is pretty self-explanatory. How strong is your character? Are they weak? Are they average? Or are they like a Captain America superhuman strength? Dexterity is their agility. How well can they, you know what? Let's use the tomato analogy. Strength. How hard can you crush a tomato? Dexterity. Can you dodge a tomato that's thrown at you? Constitution. How well can you handle eating a rotten tomato? Intelligence. Intelligence is knowing that a tomato is a fruit. Wisdom is knowing that you can't make a fruit salad out of a tomato. And charisma would be being able to sell salsa as a fruit salad. Or for some of the older folks out there, you could sell ice to Eskimos. So those will tie into various things, such as acrobatics, animal handling, a little bit more detailed into stuff that you can do. And it will also go into like when you have to make a save, like something happens and you have to save. Now, let's get into a character sheet that's already been created. So let me pull that up. So here we have a character that I made, Chuck Beaudry. He's a level 10 fighter. And for you Louis L'Amour fans out there, yes, I ripped off Chick Beaudry from the novels because, that he Texas Ranger, he's awesome. Alright, so here we go. As you can see, his strength is average, dexterity is pretty good, constitution is good, wisdom is through the roof. And you see here how it all sort of ties together with a bunch of different things, like because of his wisdom is so high, he has a good idea, a passive idea of his surroundings, things like that. But we're not going to get into all that. We'll get into that when we get into the game. What I want to go into is what the game doesn't cover, and that's sort of the descriptions. The description's going to cover the background. Now, the background's going to have a big part in the game, but what we're going to talk about is the personality traits. Personality traits are what your character is as a person. So the personality traits for my fighter, when I put them together, is he's always polite and respectful, and he can stare down a hellhound without flinching. Basically, he can stand in the face of fear and hold his ground, and he's always polite. Now, various backgrounds are going to have various examples of personality traits. Let me pull out one of the books, because you can get started with 3 basic books. For example, Player's Handbook. It's going to help you build your character. Monster Manual, give you all the stats of all the creatures that you'd end up fighting. And then the Dungeons Master Guide, which sort of helps the DM build their world. We're going to look into Player's Handbook. Now, go in here, and here we go. Backgrounds. So different backgrounds are going to have different things. Take Outlander, for instance. That's on page 136 of the Player's Handbook. Personality traits, you'd roll, if you were just rolling from it, you'd get a d8. So, for example, let's say I rolled a 5 and a 2. A 2 is, I watch over my friends as if they're a litter of newborn pups. Basically, I'm the mom of everybody. I'm everybody's caretaker. And then 5 would be, I place no stock in wealthy or well-mannered folk. Wealth, money, and manners won't save you from a hungry owlbear. They're very practical. When it comes to survival, they're very practical. Wealth really doesn't hold anything for them. Alright, so now we get into ideals. Ideals are what sort of drives you as a person. Like, what makes you go out and do the adventure. Let's see here. Let's say I rolled a 6. Glory. I gotta earn the glory in battle for myself and my clan. So basically, as a character, everything they have to do has to bring them recognition somehow. So if they rolled that, they'd have to do something that brought them recognition. And bond, as you can see here, like bonds, let's see here, let's go to a different background. I'll go into more in the backgrounds when we get into the actual game of Baldur's Gate. Let's see here. Criminal. So, criminal, let's see here. One of the examples is, I'm trying to pay off an old debt I owe to a generous benefactor. Oh, by the way, this is on page 129 of the Player's Handbook. So basically, think Han Solo. You notice in the very first of the original trilogy, he mentions that he owes a debt to Jabba. And his whole thing is about trying to make money to pay back Jabba. So that would be like a criminal background. That'd be an example of what this bond is. That's why he is there, to make money, so that way he can get out of his debt. And then we get to the flaws. The flaws are sort of like your kryptonite as a character. let's go into let's go to the page before that, 128, charlatan. Flaws. I can't resist a pretty face. They have a hard time saying no to people and persons that they find attractive, or they're easily duped by people that they're attracted to. Things of that nature. That is what gets them in trouble. So, like for my chick Beaudry, I gave him I'd rather eat my armor than admit when I'm wrong. So basically, once he's committed to something, it doesn't matter if he's wrong or not. He's gonna keep going through with it because, by God, he started it. He's gonna finish it. All right, so let's get into the actual game. Alright, oh boy, let me get the audio up. Where is it? Come on, work with me here. Pardon the technical difficulties. I will get this down. Where on earth did that go? Nope. Okay, I'm gonna figure this out. Please bear with me. I thought I had this figured out. There it is. Audio output capture. Alright. There we go. Now we're working. So here we are with Baldur's Gate 3. So, what this is going to do is it's going to give us when I start this up, it's going to give us our initial plot hook. So a plot hook is essentially the campaign setting, the initial cinematic entrance to a movie, somewhat, so to speak. It's going to give us what time period is the world in, what setting are we expecting? Is it going to be serious? Is it going to be funny? It usually in my experience with D&D, it doesn't matter how serious the setting is. It's always going to devolve into Monty Python and the Princess Bride's unholy love child. So we're going to go ahead and start with new game, and to give it a little bit more of a realistic setting, we're going to go with honor. Honor mode in Baldur's Gate 3 is essentially, once you've completed an action, you can't go back to that save. Sorry. There is no going back. There is no passing go. There is no collecting $200. You're done. You've made the decision, now you're going to have to live with it. So, but then again, I am trying to teach this, so let's go here. You know what? Let's go with Explorer. So that way I can focus on teaching everything and make the adventure last long, because I kind of really suck at rolling on this game, and watch it prove me wrong as soon as I jump in. So, here we go. Hey there, viewer. Could you tell me if you can hear this? Alright. So essentially what you're seeing here is one of the villains. And I'll explain a little bit later what's going on. And so will the game. Okay, so essentially what that was is it was an explanation as to why your character is there. And what that does is it sets the stage essentially, because you've got different things like you've got the everyone meets in tavern trope, or you all accepted a job and you happen to meet up at this location and just all happen to be there. Another favorite trope is you all wake up in a prison cell together. Why are you there? This one is you were captured and you were infected with some sort of parasite. Alright, so let me figure out my audio thing. Alright. So that's it. Alright, so now I'm going to be going over the various origins and things like that. So we have the various origins. We have several of the characters that you can either meet as NPCs or play as, and then the Dark Urge, which is something that they made specifically for the game. Races in D&D. You've got your stereotypical elf. Now, your elf is, your Lord of the Rings elf. You've got several different sub-races. You've got High Elf and Wood Elf in this game, for example. Wood Elves live almost exclusively in the forest. High Elves, they're attached more to the Fae, like the Fae Wilds. That would be like the fairies, things like that. And by Fae Wilds, I mean more reminiscent to the Irish fairies and things like that. Tieflings are essentially they're distant descendants of this world's version of the Hells. Much like Nightcrawler for X-Men, how his X gene manifested, if you want a good example. Because his X gene manifested in a way that was, like this, and it was for a reason, because he was descended from one of these. Now there's a couple. You are descended from various bloodlines, essentially, is what it is. Various bloodlines from it. Does it necessarily make you evil? No, it doesn't. Drow, they're elves. They're elves that live in what is the area known as the Underdark, the Underground. They live subterranean, so their culture and their beliefs are vastly different from their surface counterparts. Now, they have two different factions by this point. In this world, they have two different factions. Lolth are the ones that sort of follow the evil side of things. They fall under the evil camp. They slavery, all that jazz. Seldarines, they don't want anything to do with Lolth, which is a spider goddess, essentially. What they want to do is they just want to live their lives peacefully. Excuse me. But the biggest thing to remember is just because you are picking a race in D&D doesn't mean that you have to follow that trope. You don't have to be like, oh, well, I'm playing a dark elf, so I'm evil, or I'm playing a high elf, so that means I'm going to be good and peaceful. You of course have your humans, your bare basic bone humans. Think the Kingdom of Gondor and the Kingdom of Rohan in Lord of the Rings as a good example for like humans in a fantasy setting. Now here's one that doesn't get touched often. Githyanki. They were born. The things that you saw in the scene beforehand that were putting the parasites in, they're mind flayers. If you'd like a nerd equivalent that you might be able to follow a little bit easier if you've never played Dungeons and Dragons before, think of them as an all-organic Borg from Star Trek before they, when they were still the evil, everyone will join the hive mind, resistance is futile. The Githyanki were created to be their slaves, and they were able to escape, and so their whole race is built on fighting. Their whole race and culture has grown up fighting against the mind flayers, and their, for lack of a better term at the moment, final solution. Because when how mind flayers spread, you'll find out in the story. Dwarves. Yeah, dwarves are dwarves. So, stonesmiths, things like that. You have several different types of dwarfs. You have the golden dwarf. They are the craftsmen. Shield dwarves are the sort of like more the fighters. And then you have the Durgar. The Durgar are similar to the Drow. They've grown up deep underground. In this story, they were once enslaved by eldritch mind flayers. And other stories, they grew up, their culture was so deep underground that they are vastly different from the dwarves closer to the surface. Half-elf, as the name implies, is just half-elf. You have, of course, the different half-elves of any kind. And essentially, they kind of don't fit in anywhere. They can go anywhere, but they also kind of don't fit anywhere at the same time because they're longer lived than their human parents, or whatever race of parents that you decide. That'd be a homebrew thing. The books follow a half-human, half-elf thing when it comes to the handbook. Halfling is, of course, your hobbits. They're better at stealth. They're unnaturally lucky, and things like that. You often see a trope of them being used as rogues and thieves because people use them to utilize that lucky roll to, get out of their failed rolls and things like that. But that's a whole different thing. Moving on. Gnome, similar to halflings, they are more exploratory in essence. you'll see them in settings like in the books and campaign settings. They're closer to like dwarves, as far as like a lot of them are more tinkerers, artificers, things like that. Dragonborn. They are the former slaves of dragons. They were created by the evil dragon gods to be their servants. So once they escaped, their culture became about, staying together with the clan and ensuring that everyone remains free from enslavement ever again, kind of a thing. That's their culture. They also, depending on the type of dragon that they have, depends on the type of abilities that they can get. And this is where races come into play. You get different abilities depending on your sub-races. Black Dragonborns, Acid. Blue, Lightning. Brass is Fire. Bronze is Lightning. Things like that. Let's go back to Gnome. Rock Gnomes, they have an affinity for metal, much like dwarves. Forest Gnomes, they have an affinity more for nature. And Deep Gnomes, once again, Underdark. Or the underground. They are subterranean. You'll notice in the settings with these, when you see the Underdark mentioned in regards to a race, the culture is harsher. Their cultures are harsher and they're very different. They really went all out. Half-orc, I don't know why the official books don't let you play as a full orc, but half-orc is essentially the human and orc coming together. They are naturally angry, and they are naturally, it's the whole nature versus nurture thing. They have a natural disposition to being able to fight. Savage attacks. When you land a critical hit, you can deal extra damage. Things like that. So each of these races is going to get something out of it. So for this one, we're going to go with custom origin. And we'll go with we'll do basic. We'll do a basic thing. Alright. We're going to go human. Alright, so now we're going to classes. Class is essentially what is your role in life here in the world? How do you want to play? Barbarian, you're angry and you like to hit things. You have an ability called Rage, and that enables you to deal extra damage and shrug off attacks. You essentially, when you rage, you're taking half damage. That enables you to essentially be sort of like the tank, the damage taker and damage dealer of a party, enabling the more maneuverable ones to move around the field and take the shots. A bard is, they use music. They use their charisma. They use, like Professor Dumbledore in the Harry Potter books, music and magic beyond all that we do here. They use their magic as a weapon by utilizing music. Now there's different subclasses for these, and each of the subclasses gives you specific subsets of abilities. Cleric, think of them as wandering preachers with an affinity for healing. Now you'll notice, like here, you'll see over here there's no subclass with a lot of these, but like with some of them, like cleric, you get a subclass right away because it depends on the path you've chosen. Like, let's look at cleric. You've got life domain, which is all about healing. You have the light domain, which is all about dispelling the darkness and using fire to burn away corruption. You have the trickery domain, which is all about using illusions and deception to give you and your allies the advantage. The knowledge domain sort of pulls from all sections. Knowledge is power in this case. The more knowledge you have, the more power you gain. Nature domain, self-explanatory. You tie into nature quite deeply. Tempest domain, storms. Really bad translation, but think like Storm from X-Men. How she utilizes storms and weather, and essentially you're utilizing the elements themselves as a weapon. And then of course you have the war domain. Mostly following, following the, how do I put this? You know what? We'll just read it verbatim. Fortified by holy zeal, you brandish an arsenal of sacramental savagery to use against those you deem unrighteous. So essentially, you follow a war god, essentially, or you're a crusader. So let's go back to classes. Druid. Now, there's different, depending, once you get to a certain point, you can pick what circle you want, what area of nature you want to cover. Druids, essentially, they have the ability to shape themselves into an animal at a certain point, and they have the ability to use nature itself as fighting. Fighter. The most basic of all of them. There's multiple different fighting styles that you can utilize with fighting. You have different fighting styles that you can use. Archery, you get bonus to ranged attacks, so maybe you want to be a fighter, but you also want to be the fighter that provides covering fire for your allies. So you'd pick up archery, and that would give you a bonus to your ranged attacks. Defense, you want to be the hit taker. You want to be the one that's up there taking the hits to enable your party to deal damage out while you're attracting all the attention. So you would do defense. Dueling. Basically, you know what? Think Igneo Montoya. And how he was very flamboyant, elusive, and capable of avoiding hits and everything. So fencing. You're very good at one-on-one fighting, and very much that versatility enables you to avoid hits while also being a nuisance. Great weapon fighting. Just two-handed weapons. So basically, you're the guy that runs in with the German's Zweihander, and you're just two-handing everything. Protection, it's a self-explanatory thing. You use a shield, and you can perform a shield wall kind of a thing. Like if somebody's standing next to you and they're taking a hit, you can use that shield to help intercept the attack, and it stops them from getting hit. Once again, it's kind of going up into this defense thing, but this is proactive. You can actually use a reaction if somebody gets attacked to stop that person from being attacked, or an attempt to. Two-weapon fighting. You're dual wielding. Pretty self-explanatory. You're dual wielding. You got two weapons, one in each hand. Like in the scene Tombstone. I'm pretty sure everyone's seen Tombstone or seen that clip where he goes, I bet you he's seeing double. He's like, that's why I got two guns. One for each of you. Bruce Lee. That is essentially what monk is. You have different things that you can do. You have elemental that you can access later on, elemental attacks. You have just plain old, it enhances your punches, damage. There's a couple of subclasses in here that I personally like that aren't part of the base game. I'd have to download a mod, which I have mods downloaded, I just don't have any of them active for this session. Paladins. You're a crusader. You're a crusader in the name of any sort of deity. That is what you do. And you have several oaths that you take. You have ancients, basically. You fight for life and nature and preserve life. Devotion. You want to protect the weak and the innocent. And the Oath of Vengeance. You are an embodiment of vengeance. You are Batman, essentially. Although Batman is not a paladin. But that is a different discussion altogether. But essentially, you're all about avenging others and avenging wrongdoings. There's a thing that can happen when you break your oath called Oathbreaker, and that causes you to gain a whole nother set of abilities because you've broken your oath, and it shows in disadvantages in certain checks, certain ability checks and things like that, but it also gives you access to other abilities. That being said, personally, I think that if you pick up Paladin and you purposely break your oath as soon as possible in order to gain Oathbreaker, you're kind of a dick. But that's just my personal opinion. Ranger. Moving on. Ranger. Think like a mixture of Aragorn from Lord of the Rings and the Druids. They've got magic and things like that, and they have several subclasses that enable them different abilities, but mostly they're about traversing the wilds and hunting, essentially. They make excellent scouting type classes. Rogues, you're a thief. Thieves, assassins, things like that. They're all about stealth and dexterity. They're going to be the ones that are all about getting in and out without getting seen, and a lot of them play the I'm going to steal everything that isn't bolted down. But it doesn't have to be that. You don't have to play it that way. It's just, this is all about your imagination kind of a thing. Sorcerer. Sorcerer is a magic user that has an innate magic ability from some sort of either a divine gift or a bloodline inheritance. The most common thing is that you're descended from dragons because, as the joke goes, the bard decided to lay the dragon instead of slay the dragon. Now you have subclasses, wild magic. That would be Fae. So basically your ancestor would have been a fairy, your ancestor was a dragon, and your ancestor was some form of elemental. The fun thing with wild magic is in the game, in the tabletop, I haven't done wild magic here on this game, so I don't know how it works. But when you activate your magic, there's a bunch of different effects that can take place depending on the roll of the dice, and that can cause for some either humorous or awesome scenes, or humorously awesome. Warlocks. Warlocks have made a pact or a promise to some form of decided to basically sell themselves in a way to gain power. You have the Fiend, so basically you've quite literally made a deal with the devil. Much like Ghost Rider in Marvel. Great old one. Essentially, you've managed to connect with something so unbelievably ancient that it probably was there when the creation of the universe happened. And the Archfey is you literally made a deal with a fairy, and somehow you've benefited from it. And that's that class. And then we have Wizard. Now there's a huge joke of wizards are squishy and they die easily, and that they're a bunch of book nerds. Well, basically, wizards gained their magic because they studied. They went to a school and they studied how magic works, and they've managed to tap into it simply based on using the whole thing of going back to like the cleric with the subclass, the knowledge domain. Knowledge is power. Only they went and they pulled from all the knowledge that they were available to them. So they essentially have access to every single type of class. Now, if you notice, as I went through here, that there was a little star above each of these things, and that's the main, what it indicates here is that's the main stat that you're going to be using as a character. If we go into Barbarian, you use Strength a lot. So basically, you're a strong boy or girl, or whatever. You go into Bard, and you are selling the ice to the Eskimos, so you need to get high charisma. You need to be persuasive. Clerics, you're gurus, you're wise, you use the wisdom of the scriptures to spread the word and all that stuff. But hopefully less annoying than, people knocking on your door at random, trying to ask you if you've been saved. That can get annoying at times. I had that happen to me 3 times a week. I digress. Druids, wisdom. Kind of self-explanatory. You pull off of the sort of the common sense of nature is what you're doing. You're using your common sense of nature in order to utilize your abilities. Fighter is a little tricky. While yes, you use strength, there are some subclasses where you want high dex as a fighter. Because, and that goes into some of the subclasses that aren't in the game. Gunslinger, you want high dex, but that's not part of this game. Monk, yeah, you're dexterous because you're Bruce Lee with magic powers. Paladins, you want good strength, but your spellcasting ability is your spellcasting abilities are a little different. I can't remember what the actual subclass is, but mostly you go in and you hit things and you activate your special abilities to enhance those hits. Basically, you imbue your weapons and your armor with holy power. Ranger, once again, you're dexterous. You use your dexterity to traverse the wilds. Your next highest thing, as you can see, is the wisdom, because you use your knowledge of the wilds and common sense of the wilds to traverse it. Rogues, once again, all about that dexterity. You want to get in and out, and you want to be able to do it smoothly and quietly. Sorcerer, because your abilities are innate, you don't need to use wisdom or intelligence to cast, but you do need to be able to channel it properly, and that requires a certain flamboyance. So charisma is going to be your stat. Warlocks, much the same, except yours is because you've made a this power at the moment to cast these things. So essentially, you're using your charisma to convince that, yes, I need to cast this, I need to cast it now, and depending on how well you roll is depending on how well that persuasion works. At least that's how I have it up here when I imagine the casting going on. Wizards, because they're all about studying and learning through books and learning to channel magic through knowledge, they're going to pull off intelligence. All their spellcasting is going to be intelligence. Now let's get into backgrounds. I'm going to build this afterwards. I'd like to get through all this first. That way, we can get all the boring stuff out of the way, because I know you want to watch me play rather than, listen to me explain. But like I said, this is for people who've never played before or played Dungeons and Dragons ever. So either you're getting a rehash of the course, or you're getting all new knowledge. Your background determines, you can tie it into it helps you tie in your backstory or create a backstory as to why your character is the way they are. Like I said, acolytes, you've lived your life in a temple or a group of people and essentially followed the cultures and the religion of that area. So certain feats are available with things like this. So let me pull up the backgrounds and I can go over this. Nope, that's too far. Okay, so now we're into Player's Handbook. Player's Handbook 127. Alright, so feature for Acolyte would be Shelter of the Faithful. In a in-person game or an online game, such as on Foundry, Roll20, the D&D Beyond thing that Beyond they launched their map thing. I believe. Oh yeah, there's also Owlbear. There's a whole bunch. That came out because of COVID. Acolytes is Shelter of the Faithful. You command the respect of those who share your faith, and you can perform religious ceremonies of your deity. So basically, think of yourself as like a deacon, essentially, of whatever particular religion you are in this world. Once again, this is fiction. It's not real. I get it. There's going to be people that think that, this is getting too close to Satan worship. It's like, it's plain pretend, dude. Calm down. So you can, as far as this goes, rules as written, you can get free healing and care at a temple, shrine, or other established presence of your faith, but you have to provide the material components. So essentially, you don't have to pay the price of the service, but you do have to provide the materials. You can get help with living expenses. However, you're only going to get it at a modest lifestyle. So essentially, they will give you, you'll receive a stipend, essentially, is how you can play it. You receive a stipend in which that gives you access to basic necessities, such as the basics of food, water, and cheap shelter. You might also have ties to a specific temple. It could be the temple you used to serve, if you remain in good terms with it, or a temple where you found a new home. When you're near this temple, you can call upon the priests for assistance, provided the assistance you ask for is not hazardous and you remain in good standing with your temple. So long as you're playing your character, as in following what that particular deity believes in as ideals, like let's say you serve a deity that's all about healing others, so long as you're performing selfless acts and things like that, and you're near this place that you called home in your background, you can call upon them for help, so long as it's not going to put them in harm's way, or severely harm's way. Alright, so let's go to the next one. Charlatan. The charlatan is essentially, you're really good at manipulating. You've had a way of, you know how to speak to people, you know how to manipulate the situation to fit your advantage. And this is on page 128 of the Player's Handbook. Now, they have different abilities. Like your tool proficiencies as a charlatan would give you a disguise kit and a forgery kit. You would have these two kits on you, and you would be able to utilize them in game for RP, or to get, like, for RP purposes, roleplay purposes. Like, let's say you need to get into a place that's heavily fortified and defended, and you want to get in without a fight. You could utilize your proficiency in disguise and forgery to sneak your way into the base or building right through the front door, provided that your dice roll was high enough. Now, a charlatan, some of these actually get little things that they can do. Charlatan, you have a thing called favorite schemes. Every charlatan has an angle, but he or she has a preference to other schemes. You choose a scheme from a roll table, which in the Player's Handbook you cheat on games of chance, you shave coins, or you can forge documents, you insinuate yourself into people's lives to manipulate them and cheat them out of their fortunes. You're a gold digger. You put on new identities like clothes. Master of Disguise. If you've seen that movie, you get it. Sleight of hand cons and street corners. So, you know that stupid cup and ball game where the guy has the cup and he has the whole thing set up, and it's pretty much rigged where you win the first time and gets your confidence in, and then all of a sudden you can't find it and you lose your money? Yeah, that. You convince other people that worthless junk is worth their hard-earned money. You're a sleazy pawn shop owner, or you're a sleazy pawn shopper, essentially. So that's something that you can get with charlatan in the book gaming area. So your feature for this would be false identity. So you have a second identity, essentially, that has documentation, established acquaintances, and disguises that allow you to use that persona. And essentially, like the whole thing that was the big thing back in the before digital age got really big, the man having two lives and two wives kind of thing. That's what that feature is on an evil end. A good end false identity would be like Bruce Wayne. Bruce Wayne, Batman, and Matches Malone. Matches Malone was his identity to sneak into the criminal underground in order to gain insider information that he couldn't otherwise get as Batman or Bruce Wayne. Bruce Wayne got him into the high-end, swanky side of things, where he could actually talk to the rich people and get information there, and he could run his company and his various charities. And, of course, Batman. As most people are aware of what Batman does, because that's usually the focus of the movies. Criminal. Gee, I wonder what they are. So, a lot of rogues use the criminal background. But get advantages in deception, stealth. You get a proficiency in thieves' tools, so essentially like a lock picking, things like that. This is another one that has a specialty that comes with it. Specialties: you have blackmailer, burglar, enforcer, fence, highway robber, hired killer, pickpocket, or smuggler to choose from or to roll from on a D8. This is a lot of information, I know. So we go over to entertainer. I'm going to try and speed run through this. Entertainer, you have... Oh wait, hold up. I forgot criminals features. Let me go back. Criminal contact. Criminal contacts. You have you have a network of people that you can talk to. You would discuss this with the DM, how far your criminal contacts would go, what kind of information you could get, things like that. So essentially, you know how to get messages to and from your contact, even over great distances. That is up to DM's discretion. Everything is up to the DM's discretion how it's going to fit into their world. But you discuss it with them, and you decide together, because everyone is building the world and the story together. The whole point is for everyone to have fun. So let's go back to entertainer. Entertainer, you're good at disguise kits, and you're good at an instrument. And that's what... So you're good at playing an instrument, and you're good at disguising yourself, because you're an entertainer. You know costumes and cosmetics, things like that. You know how to make yourself look like someone else. They have routines that they can do. That's their little sub-feature that they have. Actor, dancer, fire eater, jester, juggler, instrumentalist, poet, singer, storyteller, tumbler. For those of you who are wondering what a tumbler is, think the Olympics, the gymnastic routines. That would be a good example of a tumbler. The feature is by popular demand. You can always find a place to perform. Now, as a bard and using entertainer background in this game, I've done that before. Basically, you pull out your instrument, you play anywhere, and you can earn money. You can actually earn money doing it. So you can, in this one, you can always find a place to perform, usually in an inn or tavern, but possibly with a circus, at a theater, or even in a noble's court. You can and while performing there, you can receive free lodging and food of modest or comfortable standard, depending on the quality of the establishment. So if you're performing for a noble in a palace, you can get a comfortable living and some pretty good food, which in some games, with how the DMs run things, can have benefits. As long as you're performing each night, you can stay there for free. In addition, your performance makes you something of a local figure, and when strangers recognize you in a town where you've performed, they usually take a liking to you. Usually. Now, if you've used your performance to do some pretty rotten things, they're not going to like you. Alright? You know, actions have consequences in games like this. Let's go to Folk Hero. Folk Hero. They have something called a defining event. What made you the local hero? What made you your local area's sort of champion? You stood up to tyrant's agents, you saved people during a natural disaster, you stood alone against a terrible monster, you stole from a corrupt merchant to help the poor. Robin Hood, anybody? You led a militia to fight off an invading army, you broke into a tyrant's castle to steal weapons and arm the people, you trained the peasantry to use farm implements as weapons against the tyrant's soldiers. The first ninjas of Japan, anyone? A lord rescinded an unpopular decree after I led a symbolic act of protest against it. Civil rights activist. Celestial fae or similar creature gave me a blessing or revealed my secret origin. the Zelda games. More specifically, I'm thinking Ocarina of Time, where all of a sudden you were a chosen champion by the tree. Recruited into the Lord's army, rose to leadership, and was commended for my heroism. So basically, you're a war hero. Guild Artisan. This one, you roll a d20. See, this one you roll a d20 because Guild Artisan, this is the business that you're a specialty in. So you have like alchemists and apothecaries, armorers, locksmiths, you have cooks and bakers, potterers, and tile makers, tinkers, wagon makers, wood carvers, things like that. Oh, whoops, I almost forgot the folk hero. Rustic hospitality. Since you come from the ranks of common folk, you fit in with them with ease. You can find a place to hide, rest, or recuperate among other commoners. Unless you have shown yourself to be a danger to them, they will usually shield you from the law or anyone else searching for you, though they will not risk their lives for you. So you know that scene in the I can't remember the name of it. It's a Tom Cruise movie where he's playing like almost like this super agent, and he gets out of the car and just kind of lets it roll, and then he goes into the group of people and all the police show up, and the guy hands his hat to him, and he puts the hat on, and he just kind of disappears onto the bus. Things like that would be a good visual example. Guild membership. For Guild Artisan guild membership, you're a member of a guild, so you can rely on the certain benefits that membership provides. You can have lodging or food if necessary. They'll pay for your funeral if you need it. That's a depressing thought, isn't it? Your character dying. But that can happen in this game, and you end up having to create a new character. It's part of the experience. Some cities and towns, Guild Hall offers a central place to meet other members of your profession, which you can meet potential patrons, allies, or hirelings. Guilds often wield tremendous political power, much like in the Middle Ages and the Renaissance period. Guilds in D&D hold tremendous influence over the politics of the time and era. If you're accused of a crime, your guild will support you if a good case can be made for your innocence or the crime is justifiable in that guild's eyes. You can gain access to powerful political figures through the guild if you're a member in good standing. Some connections might require the donation of money or magic items, though, because it is a guild. It's all about profits, so you want to make sure that is what you're up, that is what's going on. So you must pay dues of 5 gold per month to the guild. If you miss payments, you must make up back dues to remain in the guild's good graces. So much like a guild, you have to pay to play, essentially. I don't know if there's any DMs that do this, but if you're doing quality of life in your game that you're playing, they'll have this. They'll probably have this. I, for one, could not keep track of that, so I would not run that. There's a variant version, because sometimes these backgrounds have variants to them. Guild merchant. Essentially, instead of belonging to an artisan's guild, you belong to a merchant's guild. So essentially, you can travel with. You don't craft the items yourselves, but you can sell them. You sell the works of others. You're good at selling them. You also can travel with like caravans and things like that. Should they need it, you'll have to do some work for them usually, but you can work with them. Now, this one doesn't have that, so let's go with. Doesn't have hermit. That's in this book, but they don't have it here. Noble. Nobles. They don't have any subsections in them that you choose from, or sub things that you choose from, but they do have a feature called Position of Privilege. People are inclined to think the best of you, you're welcome in high society, and people assume you have the right to be wherever you are. Basically, you walk around like you own the place, and people assume that you do. Common folk make every effort to accommodate you and avoid your displeasure, and other people of high birth treat you as a member of the same social sphere. You can secure an audience with a local noble if you need to. This also goes into how your character acts. You can't be, when the DM creates characters and NPCs for you to interact with, he does give them their own personality traits. So if you're an asshole to them, it's likely they're going to stop being so nice to you. So we get into Outlander. I did cover some of the personality traits and the ideals for this. Let's go into the origin. There's an origin for Outlanders. Basically, what you did as an Outlander. They have forester, trapper, homesteader, guide, exile or outcast, bounty hunter, pilgrim, tribal nomad, hunter-gatherer, tribal marauder. To give an example, good example, video game example, Horizon Zero Dawn, Aloy would be under exile or outcast if she used the Outlander background. There's a feature called Wanderer. You have an excellent memory for maps and geography. You can always recall the general layout of the terrain, settlements, and other features around you. And you can find fresh food and water for yourself and up to 5 other people each day, provided that land offers berries, small games, water, and so forth. So essentially, because you're a hunter-gatherer, and you're so used to moving around and reading the landscape, you can navigate it with ease, and you're able to find food for yourself and your companions with ease. Really useful with like the long traveling, things like that. Definitely useful with like RP and survival RP as well. Sage. You grew up in a library, you're a nerd. No, I'm joking. Okay. So this one does have a specialty table. You can be an alchemist, an astronomer, discredited academic, librarian, professor, researcher, wizard apprentice, or scribe. Your background is a researcher. So, basically, when you learn or you recall a piece of information, and this is how you roleplay with the DM, if you don't know the information, you know where to look because you're a researcher. You know where to look, what questions to ask, and where to ask them. So, like here, it says, your DM might rule that the knowledge you seek is secreted away in an almost inaccessible place or that it simply cannot be found. Unearthing the deepest secrets of the multiverse can require an adventure or even a whole campaign. Alright, so let's get into, because they don't have Sailor, but they do have Soldier. Now, the soldier in Baldur's Gate 3 is slightly different than the book because it fits more of the campaign in this game. In D&D Beyond, they actually have that distinct difference as well when you create a character on D&D Beyond. Now, you have a specialty. I made a TikTok about this a couple of days ago. I rolled up a character, and their background was a soldier, and their specialty was officer. Their flaw was, I'd rather eat my armor than admit when I'm wrong, which I found absolutely hilarious because most officers that I've met during my time in the Army, they had a hard time of admitting when they were wrong or pushing the blame on someone else when they did admit that they were wrong. I didn't have too many officers like that, but I did have a couple. Made for a not fun time, but let's get on with this. You have officer, scout, infantry, cavalry, healer, corps master, standard bearer, or support staff, cook, blacksmith, or the like. You would roll a d8 for that, or you could pick one depending on how your backstory goes. Some DMs want you to roll your character entirely. Everything has to be rolled at random, which makes your improv and your imagination stretch because you have to figure out how to fit the character that you've rolled here and make it make sense in the world that you're going to be interacting with. So this game will really help you with your creative thinking side. Now, the feature for soldier in a tabletop would be your military rank. Your military rank from your career as a soldier, soldiers loyal to your former military organization will still recognize your authority and influence, and they'll defer to you if they are of lower rank. You can invoke your rank to exert influence over other soldiers and requisition simple equipment or horses for temporary use. You can usually gain access to friendly military encampments and fortresses where your rank is recognized. So essentially this enables you, say you need to secure rations and you don't necessarily have the funds to pay for them. If you're in an area with soldiers of the same army that you were in, you could, as the military community calls it, E4 Mafia it, and acquire said supplies from your fellow E4 Mafia members. Or Lance Corporal Undergrounds. I'm not going to leave the Crown Eaters out, don't worry about it. Alright, now we have Urchin. Think little orphan. Out on the streets, living their lives. Grew up on the streets, alone, orphaned, or very poor and destitute. No one to really watch out for you. Think of, like, if you've watched, like, any of the Batman animated series cartoons from the 90s, the street urchins and stuff that Batman runs across every once in a while. Or in the comic books. Kind of like that. They're kind of self-sufficient, and they look after themselves. They have a feature called City Secrets. You know the secrets and patterns that flow to cities and can find passages through the urban sprawl that others would miss. When you're not in combat, you and companions you leave can travel between any two locations in the city twice as fast as your speed would normally allow. So let's say you're in a city such as, Baldur's Gate in this game, and it takes, and the DM says, it'll take you an hour to reach from point A to point B. And you go, oh, but I have the urchin background. Now it only takes your group a half hour to get there, which, when you have events that are like under a quote-unquote time crunch, this can really help with urban encounters and the like. So, now that I've got that out of the way, why don't we build a character completely? So I've already said that I'm going to custom origin. You know what? Let's go with something. Let's go half elf. Let's go with a drow half elf. As you can see, result from liaisons between Seldarine drow and surfacers. They aren't usually raised in the Underdark. Not necessarily the case if you want to do a tragic background, but we're not going to get into that. That's kind of messed up and twisted. Alright, you know what? Let's have some fun with this, and we're going to make them a bard. Because a bard has access to some pretty fun stuff in this. Now, cantrips are things that you can cast sort of at will. Cantrips are simple magical effects. Take Vicious Mockery. You roast someone so bad that it actually hurts them. It hurts them so deeply that it causes damage to their psyche and actually brings down their health. Much like bullying can do. Bullying can cause depression and anxiety and cause health. You're bullying people. Just call it what it is. You're bullying people. Blade Ward. Blade Ward, when you cast this, you only take half the damage from bludgeoning, piercing, and slashing attacks. Personally, I never remember that I have that. So, I am going to use Vicious Mockery, and then Light, you touch an object, and it becomes a walking torch, essentially. It becomes a flameless torch, essentially, which really helps in, like, dark areas and things like that. One of the most common things to do is somebody casts light, and they cast it on, like, a necklace, and then when they want to hide the light, they, like that. Now, some of the mechanics in this are going to be different. In this one, if you learn Beast Speech, it lasts until a long rest. Book-wise, it only lasts 10 minutes in-game. Alright, and then you have your spells. Now, as you can see, not a whole lot for spells, but then again, you are a low level. Healing Word is self-explanatory. You speak, and since this is a bard, you are performing, so you're speaking, and through the use of your words, you're soothing people and healing their wounds. Heroism, basically, you boost the morale of somebody. You heal them, and it gives them 5 temporary hit points. So it gives them a little bit of oomph to them. Not one that I particularly use. I don't really. Bane, you penalty to attack rolls and saving throws. So you're basically cursing them, essentially. Charm Person, you charm a person, they can't really do anything against you. You have Cure Wounds, which of course you touch someone and it heals them. It's like a healing touch. Disguise Self, self-explanatory. You disguise yourself as something else or someone else. In the game, you disguise yourself as another race. Dissonant Whispers. You, once again, you cyberbully somebody, essentially. It's not like Vicious Mockery, it's a little bit more powerful. But this is more like, making something very creepy sounding, or something like that, and it causes someone to freeze up. It causes their fight or flight to kick in, and instead of fleeing, they freeze. Fairy Fire, that one's pretty fun. All targets within the light turn invisible, and attack rolls against them have advantage. So that one's very good and useful if you find yourself going up against a lot of invisible enemies. Featherfall, you gain immunity to falling damage, essentially, is what it does. So you could cast it on yourself and jump off of a building and take no damage when you land. The one I'm going to keep is Tasha's Hideous Laughter. This one is it's a verbal tickle attack. You basically hit them with a spell that if they fail the saving throw, they fall to the ground laughing. And now we have starting instrument, because every bard needs a good starting instrument. So you have the hand drum, you have the flute, the lute, which is a very, 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 very generic and old, like one of the oldest versions of the guitar. You have a lyre, which is similar to a harp, and then you have a violin, or in the book they call it a viol, which is the older version of the violin. So why don't we go with, you know what, we're gonna go went down to Georgia and call a violin, and then how about we go with, what do we think we should go with? Acolyte. Oh yeah, sure. Let's be the inspirational Christian rock stereotype. What do you guys think? Probably not. Entertainer? Then again, bard. You do already get sort of benefits to that. So, yeah, we'll do. How will we do folk hero? You know what? No, I'm gonna go with entertainer. I came from a traveling circus, and they caught me. All right, so this one already has the stats set up for you. Typically speaking, you start off with this one does point by. There's 3 different ways you can do this. There's standard array, point by, and rolling. So rolling is you roll 4 or 5 d6s or 6-sided dice. 4 or 5. I can't remember. Hold up. Give me a moment. Give me a moment. I've done a lot of information. Okay. Choosing ability scores. Okay. Roll 4 6-sided dice and record the total of the 3 highest dice on a piece of scratch paper. Do this 5 more times that you have 6 numbers. If you want to save time or don't like the idea of randomly determining ability scores, you can use the following scores instead: 15, 14, 13, 12, 10, and 8. So you take your numbers and you write each number besides one of your character's 6 abilities to assign the scores to the various abilities. That's rolling, essentially. So there's point costs as well. And you have 27 points to choose from. So this one already gives you a set thing as far as points. Sort of helping with the game mechanics. But essentially, everyone starts off with this. Now, if you notice, everyone starts off with 8. Now, like I said, you notice the little star next to charisma. Bards use charisma a lot. So with this 27 points, you can easily go like, okay, I want to be a strong boy, and then do that. And you can only go up to like 15. So let's say you do that, and then you just kind of boom, you have things set up. But I'm going to use the recommended, and then that. Or that. We'll do that one. So, and skill proficiencies. So you have athletics, acrobatics, that's inherited from background. You have a proficiency with that. And then you see these little things here. These are going to be like granted the things that you get from your class. Each class gets their own special backgrounds, things that you are proficient in. And then that's what's checked. And then you may customize your skill preferences in the list below. If you are proficient in a skill, you add a bonus to those skill checks. So this is something that's typically not in typically not in the actual game. You're given specific things that you are proficient at. This is just something that the video game added, I believe, because I've never come across this where you can actually choose any of these to have a bonus point in. So let's build the body. So we've got two different types of bodies. We've got lean and brawny, essentially. We're going to go small and scrawny. Edit appearance.
Where to next?
And you're going to hear like little one-liners and stuff like that from the character. Things like that. You get skin care, skin tone, things like that. Mature, you know. So so let's go with just this. Eyes. You can choose heterochromia in this one. Basically, this is when you'd be building your character's appearance. See how contrasting colors and stuff kind of have the effect of playing off each other? It's kind of cool, I think, personally. So yeah, typically, if you get into the player's handbook and it shows the different races and things like that, and then you have also supplemental books that goes into races, it'll give you like a generic overview of what these different races, their skin tone, their typical height and weight and body build, things like that are, because, you know, like I said, it is a whole world in and of itself, and of course it has its own ecosystem and how people and animals have evolved. So these would be like your stereotypical skin colors of a half drow elf. You have all the drow colors, and then you have the human skin colors as well. So let's go with that one, because why not? Hair, of course. You'd be choosing what your character's hair is. What's this one? I do not like that haircut. I don't like that haircut either. Meh. That does not speak to me. Ooh. You know what? I like that one. We'll go with that one. Alright, so now you can pick your hair color. Now, of course, once again, any color. Because, you know, magic is the thing. Let's not. Although that would be funny. And then, of course, it gives you the highlights. This one is a two-tone. Oh yes, let's take away the... Let's... There we go. Oh look, she only has half a soul. I can make that joke. I have gingers in my family. keep it one solid color because I'm weird like that. Alright? Grain. So, see? Oh look, I'm turning into an old fart. That kind of thing. And then, of course, if you so chose, facial hair, but we're not going to do facial hair. So you go back to edit character, kind of look around. Notice how the initial weapon is a rapier. Rapiers rely mostly on dexterity, and as you can see, one of the next highest things on a bard is dexterity, because they have performances that they have to do. And bard isn't just about singing in the D&D universe. It can be, but bards, since it is the Renaissance Middle Ages era kind of a thing, with a little bit of magic and industrialism kind of thrown in for flavor, bards are more all-around performers. Think of like vaudeville in the American history 100 years ago. They sort of were good at if you performed in vaudeville, you could sing, you could dance, and you could act, and you were really good at all three. If you want to look up somebody like who they have actual footage of that was a vaudeville actor, look up Foster Brooks. A lot of his acts are acting stereotypically drunk. He was more of a comedian, but you can definitely see it in his performances. He was very good at all three. So now we name the character. Now Tav is the character that was named exactly for this. So, like, when they wrote this story, Tav and the Dark Urge background that they have were what was made, what was written for this story, because these actually do have, like, when people write this, they actually do have books in mind. They're writing it like a story, but it's a choose-your-own-adventure story with on-the-fly improvisation, especially when it comes to the tabletop side of things, when you're doing IRL or the Roll20 and Foundry stuff. So, because first name I thought of because of my game from last night. Alright, so Guardian, that's going to get explained later on, so don't worry about that. I'm not even going to worry about that. So here we go. Story. So what you're looking at is a nautiloid, and that is the ships that the Mind Flayers use to traverse the multiverse, essentially, to enslave and create more Mind Flayers. Is picking up my headphone, music from my headphones. Okay, so here you see the Githyanki showing up to fight and try and stop the Mongoloid. As you can see, he's transported himself to another part of the world, or to another world entirely. She, of course, if you remember from my explanation earlier, she's one of the Githyanki. So, if you're wondering what that was, that where they were at, that is, that was the realm of Avernus. Avernus is quite, think Dante's Inferno. Hell as a very literal, physical place that one can go, physically. So, this ship also has the capability of traversing planes of existence as well. So, after the DM will describe a scene, they will, they'll look at the party, the group of people, and they'll go, okay, you're in this room, you've just escaped from the pod that you're in, what would you like to do now? They'd describe what the room looks like, and they'd go, okay, what do you want to do now? So, we see the nursery that we can interact with it.
The pool that thing came from. The parasite now writhing behind your eye.
Now, we have several different options to choose from. You can reach towards the pool, you can investigate the pool, or you can just leave it alone. So, this is where those ability checks are going to come into play. Investigation is going to use your intelligence. You're going to roll a d20, and because I have a +1 to my intelligence, I'll get a +1 to that roll. You know what? I like the red dice. Let's go with the red dice. Now, as you can see, it's going to give you what your bonuses are here. And we roll. And it becomes a success. So, on a success,
The casing is fragile. The slightest touch could cause it to crumble.
so this is your warning. If you touch it, it's going to fall apart. And what happens when it falls apart, you don't know. So let's just say I ignore the warning. Boom. it's exploded. It's exploded, and I have taken damage because I could not keep my hands to myself. Now, what do I have in my possession that I can use on me? Not a whole lot. I have a hand crossbow, my violin, the most basic clothing that I could possibly have, so on and so forth. Now, to give you an example of how it's going to look on a table, it's going to look something like this. Not animated, typically, but your token is going to be here, kind of to say is like, and let's see, oh, I saw a dead mind flayer. I want to go investigate that. So your token would move, you investigate, dig through their pockets. Well, I found something called a bloodstone. I can take that and I can sell it for later. Oh, hey, what's this up here? It looks like some sort of box. Let's go check it out. Oh, it looks like gold and a chalice. Chalice really isn't going to do me any good, but gold might actually do me some good in the future, kind of a thing. Alright, so
Don't waste a step.
we kind of go through, walking around, and it's like, oh, hey, here's another mind flayer pod. Let's make sure there's... Nope, they didn't make it out alive. They died on the impact. So, if we go here, oh look, an onyx. An onyx, that's pretty valuable. And then a rune slate. What does a rune slate? Well, what's this do? Read. Okay, I can't read it because there's no description. And then we've got nothing else here. Like, there's nothing here. Okay, alright. Let's go back down. Let's try and find our way out. Because we don't want to be on this ship anymore. We were kidnapped. Hey, what's this? Oh look, why does that heal us? Do we want to know? Probably not. And then, of course, would you like to go to the door, which they humorously called the sphincter? Alright, so you know what? Let me get at this. And let me show you exactly why. Somebody likes their butt jokes. So we go over here. Oh no, there's somebody on the table over here. A goblin. They're dead. Do they need their gold anymore? Probably not. I'm gonna pocket that.
Images of goblins, their habits and histories flash into your mind.
Now my character's hearing something call for help. Where in the world is that coming from? I should go up. Oh, hey, look, somehow I got that to work. Here's where the help is coming from. But wait, he appears dead.
Yes, you've come to save us from this place. From this place you'll free us.
The exposed brain quivers in expectation.
So my passive perception has picked up that there's something a little off about this. Now, of course, this is a video game, so it only gives you a limited amount of things that you can do. man or brain. Think you're past the point of saving. Tell me what to do. You sound afraid. Why?
Remove us from this body, from this case. Free us, please.
So now it gives us, oh, hey, look, what in the world? Why? What the heck is this? Am I talking to the dude or the brain?
Born new from this husk.
You know no creature like this. One that is more brain than person.
And so, that would have been, give me an Arcana check, from the DM. And I failed, so therefore I don't know what this is. Technically I do out of character, but my character does not know. What is this? So I'm going to investigate. It's like, what is this brain? What is going on? I have critically failed. So essentially what has happened is a 1 on any roll is an automatic failure. Do not pass go, do not collect $200.
Apart from this strange context, you notice nothing unusual about the brain.
So I don't trust this at all. I'm on a ship with a bunch of people. I don't know what this is, so I'm going to just destroy this thing because I don't trust it. And of course, there's the whole loot the body trope. Now, if you notice there's this little kind of light that comes from the front of a character, that is what you can immediately see. So let me show you how this works. Like if you're to do like a Foundry or VT or some other virtual tabletop, let's go over here. See how this area is grayed out? I can't see this, so I don't know what immediately is going on.
No one back home will ever believe this.
Alright, so now that I've looked through that area, I've investigated this area. I don't see anything that would actually be useful for me to use. Wait, what's this? It's a tablet.
1,000 years of humanoid history. Elves, dwarves, humans, and more flash behind your eyes.
So really not any useful information, but it is some information that adds to the lore of the story. But hey, here's an exit. Maybe we can get out. On the map, you would see an exit appear. That would be what is known as a random event of some sort.
Abomination. This is your end.
Your head throbs and your skin tingles. Visions rush past. A dragon's wing, a silver sword, and a flash of your face seen through the strange woman's eyes.
My head. What is this? Squall. You are no thrall. Vlaakith blesses me this day. Together, we might survive.
Hold up, let me... Alright. Forgot to send that. Okay, anyways. So, give a little bit of context on the culture of Githyanki. Vlaakith is like their queen. She is much like the Egyptian cultures and the cultures of the ancient worlds. Vlaakith is seen as a deity to be worshipped, kind of a thing, by that culture. So they're seen as a direct will of whatever deity they happen to follow, or they're seen as a deity. So me trying to be practical, what do you suggest?
We exterminate the imps. Then we find the helm and take control of the ship. We will address the matter of a cure for this infection once we reach the material plane.
So here's where we get our first taste of combat. So this is where the DM does something called roll for initiative. What you do is he has you roll a d20, and your initiative is going to, where is it? Okay, so yeah, see how I have initiative right here as a +2. Initiative is basically how ready you are for combat when it begins. How fast is your response to when a fight starts? The higher your dexterity, the faster you can respond. So because I have a dexterity of 14, I get a +2 to my initiative, which enables me to respond a little bit faster. In this case, when I rolled the d20, I rolled the highest, so my character gets to go first. So I have several choices called actions, bonus actions, and movement. Movement is how far your character can move, which my character's base movement speed when looking at it is 30 feet. 30 feet is my base movement speed. So I can move 30 feet during any given turn of my encounter. And when I move, I can either move up to attack something, I can stay where I'm at and attack. Bonus actions are, I can use Bardic Inspiration. Because I'm a bard, I can inspire another ally to add a bonus to their next roll. I can only use it once, essentially, a day or per long rest. I can also cast Healing Word, enable healing my allies should they be injured in any way. I could also jump or shove something. I can also dip my weapon in something should it be a poison or something else. Actions are going to be my main things. My attacks, my melee attacks, I can hide, I can double my movement speed. Basically, instead of attacking, you're going all in for the sprint. But as you can see, I also have access to my spells. So, as far as cantrips go, I have Dancing Lights, Vicious Mockery, and Light. None of those are really going to do any good. I want to have them keep distance, so I'm going to use my crossbow, and I'm going to attack that one. And that kills it. So I still have my bonus action and my movement. Because I don't want to use those, I am happy where I'm at. I'm just going to end my turn. Now it is essentially Lazelle's turn. She's sort of like the NPC. So typically, the DM would have taken care of her, or if you were playing with another person, Lizelle would be her character. Their character. So because Lizelle is a fighter, as you can see, level 1 fighter. Their actions are different. they can lacerate, which basically makes them bleed extra damage for a turn. A hamstring shot, which is going to possibly reduce a target's movement speed by 50% if they fail their Constitution saving throw. If they fail their Constitution saving throw, it's like you kneecapped them and they can't move as fast anymore. Rush attack is basically you're charging forward and you're using the momentum of your movement to add into your attack, and it's going to knock them off balance. So I'm going to hold T and show what off balance does. Disadvantage on strength, dexterity, and attack rolls. And attack rolls against it have advantage. Advantage is very important. Advantage enables you to take not one, but 2 d20s and roll. And then you take the higher number of the 2 when you use it. Which can really be useful in some situations. In a lot of situations, actually. Her bonus actions are different. She has, as a fighter, second wind, so she can basically draw on her inner strength and sort of just force herself into feeling better, essentially. "'Tis only a flesh wound." Pommel strike is going to be like, okay, so I've slashed, now I'm going to take the back of my sword and strike them in the face to try and daze them, cause them to go a little bit on discombobulate them. So they have disadvantage on wisdom saving throws, can't take reactions, and they lose the dexterity bonus to their armor class for a bit. So it knocks them off balance, making them easier to hit, is essentially what happens. Because part of your armor class is your dexterity, your ability to dodge an attack. And boom, she does that. Now, she's out of an action, but she has a bonus action. She can use her bonus action to pommel strike, but she doesn't have the movement speed to reach. Observe. Boom. That's as far as she can move, because each of the turns in a round are 6 seconds. They were, according to the rules, they last 6 seconds. So now it is the Imp's turn. He uses Fiery Bolt, and see, it misses because the hit was lower than the AC. So therefore, it represents as either it just harmlessly splashes off the armor, or you manage to dodge out of the way. Now, I see this one. See, alright, now, if you look at this, and I aim with the melee weapon, disadvantage. Each melee weapon has its quirks. Same goes for ranged weapons. Ranged weapons have their own ranges. Because I am this far away, if I were to take a shot at them, I'd have to roll a d20 twice and use the lowest roll. And that would impose a disadvantage on my ability to hit. So instead, I'm going to move forward, and then I'm going to fire, which will give me a normal ability and an attack. And with that, when you kill the last thing, we have all these. So I can go through here. Oh look, a scimitar. I'm not proficient with scimitars, so that means I can't use their full ability. When I roll an attack, it is a flat d20. And I don't get the bonuses to like the attacks, and I don't have the ability to access these special features of Lacerate and Flourish, which is how they roll with it. You technically don't have these abilities, so to say, in the IRL games or outside of Baldur's Gate 3 video game. These were mechanics that were added to add a little bit more flavor. But yeah, typically if you're not proficient in a weapon, you roll a flat d20, and then that's the result you go with. Some DMs might let you train with the weapon over a period of time to become proficient in it, or some DMs will be like, no, your class doesn't know that weapon. If you want that weapon, you're going to have to pick up a feat that allows you to use it. So, but because I need a weapon, I need a melee weapon to defend myself, I am going to take it. And then I will equip said weapon.
No traps, please.
Now this one has something called a hand axe. Some weapons have two qualities in them, in that they are a melee and a ranged, because you can throw them. That'll be daggers and hand axes, more specifically. Now, as you can see, I do have proficiency in this. Excuse me. So I can pick that up, and I can equip it, and I would get the damage bonus to it. See, +3, and then +2. So, as you can see, there are things that happen. But, as you can see here, melee attack, 1d6 minus 1. Why is it the 1d6 minus 1? Because the attack with a hand axe requires strength. And I have a -1 to my strength due to it being an 8. So that is why my damage would always have 1 subtracted from it, because my character can't put the oomph behind it that it needs to make that stronger hit. On the other hand, this one is a finesse weapon. Finesse weapons use dexterity. So, you, like that, scales with your dexterity instead of your strength if your dexterity is higher. So, on a paper, you can either choose to use your dexterity or your strength, depending on which is higher for the. And that's much of the same with this. If your strength or dexterity is higher, it's going to go to that automatically. But with paper games, you can choose. Most people use the one that is the higher option. And so, now let's move on. Okay, so let's see here. Now there's an ability that I have here. If I hit alternate, it allows me to see what I've inspected and what I haven't, which is something that you wouldn't have. You just have to keep track of it utilizing notes or note takers. There's a dead thrall over here. Let's investigate. Oh, they have gold. I might need that later, because I might need to, what in the world are these things? Oh look, I can sleep in them. That is freaky. Okay, so it's a bed of some kind. A light crossbow. Now if we go over here, she has a bow.
Never a dull moment.
Dead thrall. Investigate him. He has a single gold piece. Imp. He has a hand crossbow.
One day
There's really nothing left in this room. Oh look, another one of those weird restoration pods. They probably expected you to get hurt in this fight, because it is the first fight. Oh look, a rapier. I found a rapier. See, I'm actually proficient in this one. So I can equip this simple robe. It's just clothing. it's not really going to give you any sort of armor class, whereas the jerkin is a light armor. Jerkins are kind of something that is worn under other armor, but also acts as armor in a sense. So, of course, it's going to give me a little bit of an armor class. Now, how armor works typically is depending on light, heavy, or light, medium, or heavy. Depends on whether you can use your dexterity modifier, which mine is +2, to add to your armor class. So why don't we take a look at this? Here. Let's go to inventory. And T. Light. Okay. So armor class. My armor class is 13 because I get 11 from the armor, which is a +1 because your basic armor class is going to be a 10, and then +2 for my dexterity, which is going to bring it up to 13. So when somebody attacks me, the d20 gets rolled. Any bonuses from that weapon, depending on if they're proficient or not, get added on, and if it's a 13 or higher, typically, it's going to hit. And that's essentially how that works. And oh look, another dead thrall. A potion of healing. That's going to be really useful. You can always use a healing potion. Now those are going to take you a bonus action to drink in this game. So let's go through the butthole. Let's just call it what it is. It's sphincter. So we have all this. You walk in. The DM would describe this and go, okay, you're in this room. You have a console in front of you. You have 2 people strapped to a chair, and you think you see someone over here that's struggling to get out. Well, what are these? Make me an Arcana check. I failed the Arcana check. What's this one say? Arcana, you failed your Arcana. I have Annihilate. Okay, so I passed the Arcana check. I was able to decipher the magic in the runes as Annihilate. Well, I don't want to do that. What if it kills her? She's crying for help.
You! Get me out of this damn thing! We have no time for stragglers.
And here's another thing. So what a DM will do is they'll describe a scene, like I said, and they'll go, okay, so what do you want to do? Well,
The construction is too alien. Nothing looks familiar.
This ship is crashing. Do you intend to die for a stranger?
Try that contraption next to the pod. They did something to it when they sealed me in. Hurry! Please!
see, and you'd go, okay, depending on how your actions, see, I just got a hint. Go look at the contraption over here.
The console appears dormant.
Look for switch release, or hit it, or leave. Alright?
The mechanisms are completely unrecognizable at first. Then you spy an empty socket. Nothing. The console
I'm
remains
gonna kick the
dormant.
tire and see if that'll fix it.
Whatever fits in that socket must power this thing.
Alright, so there's this room over here. Maybe there's something useful over here. Those guys appear unconscious, so I'm gonna leave them alone. And then some brain thing, it left me alone. Oh look, a key. What's the key for? I don't know. But keys are useful. Keys can open things.
Dazed woman is trapped inside the
What's going on? Why is she in the center pod? What are all these chairs doing here? There's a brain walking around, but it's leaving me alone. There's a console over here. Alright, so I'm going to show you what happens.
You hear something. A presence connected to the pot, commanding the person inside to change.
Change her. Changed at the pull of a lever. How? If we are not purified, this may be our fate.
Is this to be our fate?
So if you notice, my character is kind of intermixing two languages, common and another one. Much like Americans, because this was invented by Americans, humans in this game have a habit of taking other words from other cultures and kind of incorporate it into their own vernacular. Oh look, an eldritch rune and a bronze necklace. Oh, that's pretty. Alright, so what I just did was I hit tab, which enables me to see my characters. So character sheets. I can observe any of my characters, so you can do the same thing with your own character sheets in actual game. With whatever game you play, you can look at your character sheet, know your character completely, alright? It's going to help with the game, because if you know your character, you know what they can do, you can better plan and use your imagination. So let's get out of here. I think I found the slate that was talking about to free that woman in the pod.
The console appears dormant. The console hums to life. But what is its purpose? Will it free the captain? Transform her like that other unfortunate?
So, because I'm a magic caster, I can use Arcana to look at the console. And Arcana uses your intelligence, which gives me a +1. I only needed a 10 to pass.
The pulsing glow and organic lines of the device make it seem more like a beating heart than a machine. This device is different from the one that caused the other captive to transform. Perhaps it will open the nearby pod. Suddenly, you feel a hideous squirming in your head. The parasite. Then discomfort fades, and another sensation washes over you. Connection. Authority.
That was very close to failing.
You feel the biomechanical brain of the console process your command and yield to it. A shiver runs across your mind. You feel sated.
dangerous company is what you need in a fight.
We can get off this ship and watch each other's backs along the way.
Alright then, so then this is where you kind of can do this. You can either go, no, you're on your own, sorry, bye. Did you feel what I just felt? We were in each other's head. Or, alright, let's get going. I'm Goldie. I'm a bard, so I'm very personable. I'm like, okay, yeah, sure. Let's go.
It's nothing. Trust me. Enough of this chatter. We need to get to the helm. Now. She's right.
Now, it shows you as an object, and it's like, okay, what is that? That was weird. Okay. Alright, let's see what these people are. Zach.
Flickers in
Huh.
his eyes, but he seems totally unaware of his surroundings.
What in the world's going on with these guys?
The man isn't dead, but he's totally unresponsive.
Alright, let's see. Gee, alright, fine. Let's see what happens when you do this.
Ionic energy radiates from the prisoners. They do not react.
Okay. What's this button do? Oh, look. I ended up in combat. Because I decided to screw around and find out. So once again, I'm doing my action to attack. She is a cleric, so she has healing and Shield of Faith. Her actions consist of using her weapon.
No time to waste. What's inside?
Oh look, that might be what the key goes to that I picked up earlier. It is. I picked up that stuff because it might be useful.
Faint images appear in your mind. A brain, a Githyanki warrior, and centuries of darkness.
So as you can see,
Let's see.
that's gonna help.
Never wanted the easy path.
We are nearing the helm. Once inside, do as I say. Who put you in charge? I'll trust my own judgment. Cane yank.
So that'd be like, if I was doing a multiplayer or something, that would be like banter between players. Because that you can do that when you're playing. You can do banter between players. That is totally a thing. In fact, it's encouraged. The more banter you do between the other players in your characters, the more it helps build the lore of the world and helps the DM with ideas on how to move the story forward and make it fun for everyone involved. And once again, you get into a scene where the DM goes, okay, stop moving, let's get into this here. And he describes the scene.
Connect the nerves of the transponder. We must escape. Now.
Do it. We will deal with the Geich after we escape.
And see, now we have, of course, our roll for initiative. Now, if you notice in the corner over here, we have only so many turns to reach the transponder before the nautiloid crashes. This is sometimes going to be a mechanic in your combat games. You're going to have only so many rounds to reach your goal. Otherwise, it could be game over, or something bad happens, or perhaps you don't succeed in saving somebody. Any number of things can happen. In this case, the nautiloid crashes and everyone dies. So, she is a cleric. She has a whole bunch of stuff. Now, her cantrips are Firebolt, Sacred Flame, Guidance, and Resistance. Now, Sacred Flame is a radiant-like flame. You have to do a Wisdom save, so let's see. Boom. The imp didn't save, so they took 2 damage. But we also have to try and reach the transponder beforehand, but we kind of have to get through these guys first, too. So she would cautiously move forward while keeping herself ready. And then, probably, because that thing is close, kaboom. And then continue moving, like as she's running. But no, it didn't attack. It went after Lizelle. Alright, so you see how that red arrow is showing up next to my character. When you are within melee range of an enemy token within combat, and you try to move out of melee range, that enables something called an attack of opportunity, because you've turned your back to them and you are running away from that person. They have the opportunity to attack you and take advantage of your temporary vulnerability. That is something called a reaction. A reaction can be taken at pretty much any time outside of your regular turn within combat. So, unfortunately, that thing is a threat, and it's right there. So, boom. It's now dead. Is that anything useful? No, not at first glance. But that wouldn't be my concern right now, because I'm trying to escape. So this musical note is going to show me how many bardic inspirations I have to cast. I have 3 bardic inspirations that I can use before I have to take a long rest, which is 1 for my level, and then for my proficiency as well, if I'm remembering the rules correctly. I can look it up later. Right now, this is more on the basic mechanics. So, essentially, she's going to run in, probably finish that one off to keep it from being, getting on her back. Then it's going to be sort of what's happening in the world. Alright, so you notice how he's stunned. When you are stunned in combat, you cannot do anything on your turn. You are essentially, you've gotten blindsided.
Heading there.
So, of course, Shadowheart is going to run up, and she's going to, once again, oh, look at that. See, it fried a little bit.
Well, so much for peace. Another step forward.
Run. She can't quite reach him, but because he's damaged, Vicious Mockery actually does more damage. Or no, that's Toll the Dead, my bad. So, see, it saved its vicious mockery, and cantrips don't do any damage on a save. However, spells, like actual leveled spells, usually do damage of some kind.
Time to strike. My path be true.
Now, I'm going to do a ranged attack against that thing. Now, if you notice how many health points that thing has, means it's probably a fairly high level. At level 1, you probably don't want to be picking a fight with something like that. So, what you can do, which is what she's going to do, is dash. But there's events that happen in the middle of combat as well.
Hurry, before they strike.
And look, more things have shown up to the party to fight. Those are what we call events in combat.
Stay on my feet. Time to press ahead.
Now, as you can see, I was within range and didn't have disadvantage, but I was kind of pushing it there. But I have no more movement, and I used my action, so I can no longer use my dash to continue moving.
Taking position.
Boom.
Give in. One day, I'll catch a break.
Movement. Action. Bonus action really can't do much.
Waits.
What I can do is this.
Just so.
And look, I made it with plenty of time left.
Alien transponder. You've made it in time.
And because it's Lizelle that interacted, she's the one that gets the special interaction event that happens when you connect the transponder, which is something like the DM would choose. And we've successfully completed the entrance of it. And here you're getting a glimpse of the different factions.
As you wake, the tadpole squirms in your skull.
So here's where it'd be like, okay, we've described the scene, now you've woken up on a beach.
Chaos of the crash site confuses the landscape. You'll need to find a settlement or landmark, and you'll need to do it quickly. The tadpole is a death sentence, and the clock is ticking. You need a cure.
And we have all this fun stuff. Okay. Alright, so I've successfully escaped the Nautiloid. And as you can see, the experience levels.
I need a quick word.
Oh look, it's our acquaintance that we've made on the ship. Alright, so it's going to give you two different options, essentially. You're going to wake her, or reach for the artifact, or you could just leave. That works too. Let's wake her up.
You're alive. I'm
Ugh.
alive.
Oof. My chest.
How is this possible?
And this is something that was added in the game, but it also kind of can work on the IRL things. Your class can lend flavor to the story. Bards typically are more dramatic, have more dramatic thematic elements, so you're, as a bard, you might respond with some more flamboyance, such as it gives me an option here. Bard. So we've got your generic ones, and then we have this one. Bard. Perhaps it was some
Divine
dramatically
tend to keep their
timed divine
interventions
intervention.
close to the chest. Though, I suppose it's not impossible.
And then we have another set of conversations. You can have short conversations and stuff. Some sessions of Dungeons and Dragons is literally nothing but you having conversations in character with the other players and the DM's NPCs that they've created. And that can be just as fun as just doing nothing but going in and hitting things all the time. It all depends on the type of campaign that you're running. There could be a mix of combat or roleplay. So,
No, I don't recognize this place. But anything's an improvement on where we just came from. First things first, we need supplies, shelter, and most of all, a healer. We might have escaped, but we still have these little monsters in our heads.
alright, and then it's going to give you a couple more options, like, because this is treating them as NPCs at this moment, it's like, you want to stay together.
We need each other, and we both know what's at stake. Can't think of better company.
It's like, okay, strength in numbers, or no, I'm doing it alone. Alright, strength in
One
numbers.
thing, just before we go. I wanted to thank you again for freeing me. It would have been all too easy for you to run right past my pod, but you didn't. I'll remember that. Lead the way.
So the approval thing is kind of like for the romancing thing, but it also can tie into what happens at actual table play. Your character, with their interactions with the world around them via verbal dialogue, actions your character takes as in destructive or helpful, can have an impact on the NPCs and how the DM has them interact with you. Much like you see in the movies and in books, a character that is a jerk all the time, no matter how influential charismatic they are, people aren't going to go out of their way to try and help you as much as they would the, let's say, village idiot who happens to actually be kind and as helpful as they possibly can be to everyone, even though they're kind of, a walking, bomb of chaos. That has the social ineptitude of a rabid coyote. So you can either continue to chat or you can continue to explore at this point. So exploring is just as simple as I'm going to go north. And once again, let's look at the orthographic view, or how it would look. And we walk. Oh look, there's a barrel. There's rope. Now, rope really doesn't help you in the game here, but it is very helpful in the tabletop games. Like if you say you come across an area that's really high up, you can say have a rope and a grappling hook and have them anchored and use them to reach lower or higher spots that really have no place that you can get to. Things like that, rope is rope. So we have a whole bunch of stuff. We have a backpack. Oh look, what's this backpack doing here? An old floppy hat. Okay. An old floppy hat. That's nice. We have a pouch that's over here. Oh look, another healing potion. That's actually useful. We have myrgrass. Okay, what's the myrgrass? Myrgrass is a plant. There are plants and things such as that helps you create the potions that you use throughout your games. Or it could just be that they are part of a...
What's in here?
It could just be that they are part of, a quest. You need to go pick this flower and bring it back to this location so that it can be used for this, that, or the other. Now we have all sorts of this stuff here. Oh, there's a dock over here. We have some stuff on the dock. So I'm going to go out of orthographic view so that way I can do this. But this, it's a book with sea shanties in them. Just something to add to the lore and the flavor of the world you're in. Oh look, water. That's pretty useful. And then you got camp supplies. Camp supplies help you with your long rest and stuff. Your long rest... excuse me. Your rests typically only apply if you have the resources of it. If your DM makes you to keep track of resources and things like that, they only allow the rest to apply if you have the resources and time and ability to do so. So this one actually gives you the option to send directly to camp, or you could pick it up and add it to your carry weight. You wouldn't typically be able to do that in an actual game, just send it to camp. You have to carry your supplies with you, which is why pack animals and stuff are a thing in D&D as well, because sometimes you have a lot of supplies that you need to transport, but your characters can only carry so much weight before it actually starts to harm them. Let's look at this. Alright, so let's go back to this character here. And you see this, the weight you can carry. The weight I can carry goes all the way up to here, and it's like encumbered. My heavily encumbered means that I can... Whew, okay. Alright. Let me pull out the book. DM might have you go through this and actually keep track of your stuff and how much things weigh. Some of them are like that. Some of them don't. The ones that I have, they don't. They just like, okay, be reasonable about it. It's an honor system. You're not going to carry 500,000 swords and all this other stuff. Okay, encumbrance. Okay, lifting and carry. See under lifting and carry. Does anyone else have to go through the whole alphabet when they're going through a dictionary or something like that to figure out where they need to be? Or is that just me? 176. Okay. So in page 176 of the player's handbook, you will refer to this a lot in your games at first because all of your spells and stuff are in here too. Especially if you don't have like the D&D Beyond app. So, alright, lifting and carrying. Your strength score determines the amount of weight you can bear. The following terms define what you can lift or carry. Oh, excuse me. Again, I've been talking a lot. Your carrying capacity is your strength score multiplied by 15. So let's go through and actually do this. Strength score multiplied by 15. So, let me pull up my calculator because I don't feel like doing math. That is a calendar, not a calculator. Alright, so 8 times 15 equals 120. 120 pounds is the weight that I can carry as a character before I become encumbered. So push, drag, or lift is you can push, drag, or lift a weight in pounds up to twice your carrying capacity or 30 times your strength score. While pushing or dragging weight in excess of your carrying capacity, your speed drops to 5 feet. So if we go back to, alright, so 8, alright, so let's go off my score. 8 times 30, 240. As you can see on the sheet here, 240. I can literally only, like, when say I'm in combat or something, I can literally only move 5 feet at a time at this point. Strength, size and strength. Okay, so larger creatures can bear more weight, whereas tiny creatures can carry less. For each category size above medium, double the creature's carrying capacity and the amount it can push, drag, or lift. So, my character, should they be a large size, instead of being able to carry 120 pounds, they'd be able to carry 240, and so on and so forth. Now, there's a variant rule that can sometimes be a variant rule, because that's a very simple rule. Variant rule is more detailed rules. Ignore the strength column of the armor table in Chapter 5 Equipment. If you carry in excess 5 times your strength score, you are encumbered, which means your speed drops by 10 feet. If you carry weight in excess to 10 times your strength score up to your maximum carrying capacity, you are instead heavily encumbered, which means your speed drops by 20 feet, and you have disadvantage on ability checks, attack rolls, and saving throws that use strength, dexterity, or constitution. So essentially, it's detrimental to your health to carry something that's way too heavy for your body to handle, is what it's playing on. So 8 times. Okay, so let's go with this. If I did this, 5 times your strength score. 8 times 5, 40. If my character carries 40 pounds, they're going to be encumbered by this rule. Now, it doesn't make sense because, but, things, alright? So it drops by 10 feet. So 40 pounds for my character. Her speed would instead be 20 feet rather than 30 feet. However, if it's 10 times the carrying capacity, so 80, if I'm carrying 80 pounds, I can only move 10 feet at a time. And I can't make reactions and things like that. So that's essentially what that is saying in that regard. So that is how that is how carrying capacity works when it comes with equipment. So we go through and we're going to explore. Sometimes you'll come across letters. Sometimes they're important to the game, and sometimes there's just something that the DM improvs on a whim. So let's see what this one says. Oh look, we're gonna run off and elope. That's what this letter is. It's simply to add flavor into the area. This would be something like like the DM goes, you see bodies scattered around as if they've been, as you're not sure if they've been kidnapped by the Nautiloid ship that you were on, or whether or not they were innocent bystanders, and the characters are overcautious, like, oh, I'm going to go investigate the bodies, and they investigate every single one. So the DM would come up with random things, such as this letter, to explain what's going on. Dead fisherman. Okay, so you see what happened there? Alright, so terrain comes into effect too. So here, because I'm in deeper water, this is called difficult terrain. Difficult terrain halves your movement speed. Wet prevents you from burning and you're resistant to fire damage, but you're vulnerable to lightning and cold damage. So different effects from the environment can also affect how how you take damage and how things in the world affect you. So let's see here. Alright, so what does resistance and vulnerability means? Okay, so prevented from burning. So you can't catch on fire when you're wet. Makes sense, right? Resistance to fire damage means that you're going to take half the damage from the fire damage. And vulnerable to lightning cold damage, that means if you get hit with lightning or you get hit with cold base spells, you're going to take double the damage because you are vulnerable to it within this state, much like you would have happen in real life. So you need to be careful about so when you're playing, make sure you study the map that's placed down and then utilize the environment to your advantage. But also be wary of anything that would give you a disadvantage as well. Once again, comes into the imagination effect. Perhaps your character is naturally resistant to lightning damage, so instead of being vulnerable to lightning damage, you would instead only take normal damage rather than half damage because you're in water or you're wet from it. That kind of thing. And that'd be something that you would like bring up to the DM when it happens, like, oh, you're covered in water because of this, and they shoot a lightning bolt at you, and you roll and you go, okay, yeah, but I have natural resistance to lightning damage, so I would only take regular damage as opposed to double damage or half damage, correct? Things like that. Alright, So once again, we're investigating. Oh look, okay, so there's a bottle. There's a bottle with some liquid that you can't identify in the bottom. There's gold, and then oh look, a fish. They're fishermen. They had a fish on them. It might have been their catch of the day. I'll explain what, because once again, you need the camp supplies. Oh look, there's barrels. What do these barrels have in them? More water. Oh look, thieves' tools. That might be useful because I might need to break into something. Alright, gold, 11. Alright, awesome, I'll pick that up. Oh look, another fisher. Leave the weird brain things alone because I don't know what those are. In-game anyways. Those things are actually called intellect devourers, and that's what that thing was that was inside that body that we first encountered, where I chose to crush the brain. What they are is they're essentially pets for the mind flayers, which are those purple squid looking things. Basically, you get infected with an intellect devourer, and it slowly grows and you die, and then out pops the intellect devourer that's been puppeting you like a meat puppet. Very Eldritch Horror type stuff going on here. So, waypoints are something that we don't really have in. You can have fast travel. It's like a teleportation circle. They're going to be rare in actual game. This is one of those things that they put in for the flavor of the for the video game side of things. But ancient sigil circles in this act like a teleportation circle. So much like that, you can access the map as a whole, show everything that you've discovered. Oh look, and then an ancient door is here. So that leads to somewhere because it's labeled. So we can go up to it. Oh no, it's locked. What the heck's going on here? Oh, see? You can either look for another entrance or you could attempt to pick the lock. Be aware that when you pick a lock and you fail, you have a chance of breaking your lockpick set, which would mean that you'd have to replace it. Oh look, there's more plants. And because I want to be able to make concoctions, look, there's more of those intellect devourers. Mangled Fisher. Sent to camp. Oh look, a barrel that I haven't investigated yet. There's gold in it. Okay, that's neat. Alright, so I don't want to get noticed by these things, so you're going to notice I'm going to go, okay, let's sneak. Now I can switch over to her, and I look at this, and oh look, what can that do? Examine. It's vulnerable. It's necrotic resistant, poison immunity, but it's bludgeoning vulnerability. What's it do? close because there's all that stuff, but I can hit it with this. Boom! Oh, it's explosive! That's what it does. So, because I've already attacked, I can't make another action because I initiated the combat. What I can do is I can move back here and end my turn, but hey, look, it's her turn now. Alright, so I can either attack that one or I can attack that one. That one's closer, so I stab it. I'm going to use Flourish. Oh, it's knocked out. Wow, okay, cool. I don't have to worry about that now. But I do have to worry about that one. And see how much damage that does? Yeah, so we have that again that we have to deal with. See how I can't use that again? I have to wait until a short rest in order to be able to use it again. So I'm going to end my turn. And oh look, Alright, see, it's knocked out. So when you have a thing that's either knocked out or paralyzed, or some other form of incapacitation in front of you as an enemy, you have advantage when you attack, and any hit that you hit it with is going to be a critical hit. A critical hit just means that you add your damage to it. Now some DMs might have something called a crit hit table, or a crit miss table, and what this does is it adds a little bit of flavor to it. Let me like, one of the effects that I've run into with the crit hit table is you have the opportunity to grab them with your free hand and hold them, or you have the opportunity to, you knock them off balance and knock them prone. You hit them so hard that it gives inspiration to your ally, and they can attack another enemy as a reaction, kind of a thing. That sort of thing. Alright, so we've got level up popping up, so we're going to do that. So when you gain enough experience, or if you have a DM that does milestones, so essentially you do so many actions, or you reach a certain point in the story and it's, oh hey, you've leveled up, you get to choose different things. Different classes have different abilities that pop up as you level up. Class features for the Bard, I get a level 1 spell slot unlocked, so I can cast a level 1 spell one more time than I could before. So let's say I had 3 spell slots. I now have 4 spell slots instead of 3. Jack of all trades, because a bard is kind of like a everyman kind of a thing. They're really good at doing everything, or really good at picking things up quickly because of their performance and able to read the crowds that they're in. They have a thing called Jack of all trades. So I can add half my proficiency bonus to any of, rounded down to any ability checks that I'm not proficient in. So let's say I need to make an animal handling check. I can add half my proficiency bonus. Now what is a proficiency bonus? We're going to once again go to the player's handbook. Find the index, because I'm not flipping through 500,000 pages to find it. Proficiency bonus. Alright. So, page 14 might have the answers we were seeking. Alright. Alright. Yeah. 173 to 174. Here we go. Proficiency bonus. Characters have a proficiency bonus determined by level, as detailed in Chapter 1. Monsters also have this bonus, which is incorporated into their stat blocks. The bonus is used in rules on ability checks. So like I said, when you make ability checks, such as like animal handling, saving throws, things like that, your proficiency dump bonus can't be added to a single die roll or number more than once. For example, if two different rules say you can add your proficiency bonus to a wisdom saving throw, you nevertheless add the bonus only once. So it can't stack. It might be multiplied or divided, doubled or halved. For example, the rogue's expertise feature doubles its proficiency bonus for certain ability checks, such as sleight of hand checks, like picking a lock, picking a pocket, switching something out without somebody noticing, that kind of a thing. If circumstances suggest that your proficiency bonus applies more than once to the same roll, you still only add it once and multiply it or divide it only once. By the same token, if features or effect allows you to multiply your proficiency bonus when making an ability check that you wouldn't normally benefit from your proficiency bonus, you still don't add the bonus to the check. For that check, your proficiency bonus is 0, given the fact that multiplying by 0 is any number, by any number is still 0. For instance, if you lack proficiency in the history skill, you gain no benefit from a feature that lets you double your proficiency bonus when you make an intelligence and history checks. So let's say you pick up a feature that enables your that doubles your ability, that doubles the proficiency of it, but your proficiency is a plus whatever. It's plus 0. It doesn't apply. You can't use it. But let's say you have proficiency in performance. Your proficiency in performance would be doubled or halved, depending on the situation. So that's how the ability checks work in that regard. So that's what this Jack of all trades does. It simply adds half of the proficiency bonus to any check that I do that I'm not proficient in already. Song of Rest is I can basically I can use it to give my allies the benefits of a short rest. Now that's not exactly how that works here in here. Let me go to the Bard in here and explain how it works in here. Alright, so page 45 of the Player's Handbook. So let me explain what the Song of Rest is going to do, because I'm playing a bard, so let's explain what the table rules are, the differences in it. A barbarian, a bard. Okay, music and magic. Alright, so I lied. Sorry. It's also on page 51. That's where the main class is going to be. So, the Song of Rest. In a game outside of Baldur's Gate. Beginning second level, you can use soothing music or oration. So basically, you can either tell a story or you can play music to help lift the spirits of your party during a short rest. As you know, laughter helps soothe the weary soul and helps bring about healing. Essentially that kind of a trope. If you or any friendly creatures who can hear your performance regain hit points at the end of the short rest by spending one or more hit dice, each of those creatures regain an extra 1d6 hit points. So as you level up in your class, that also increases. So at 9th level, it turns into a 1d8. A 13th level turns into a 1d10, and at 17th level, it's a 1d12. So let's say we're in a short rest, and I'm going to grab my 1d6. So I'm going to grab this 1d6, and I'm going to roll it. So I'm going to play some soothing, relaxing music on my lute in order to, help relax the party and enable the magic to do its work, because they're not as tense anymore. They're actually relaxing and letting themselves heal and releasing some of the tension. Alright, so I rolled a 4. So on top of rolling their hit dice, now, I forgot to mention this, when you have a class, each class has its own hit die. That is, it determines your health plus your constitution modifier. So my constitution as a bard is +2 because it's 14. +2 to constitution's checks. So your hit points, alright, so let's see here. So my hit points, my hit die is a 1d8 per bard level. So my 1d8, if I was rolling for it, is going to be 1d8 plus my constitution. And that is going to be my initial health. So let's say I roll it. Alright. 2 plus 2 is 4. Okay, so I would have been pretty weak as far as that goes if I had rolled it. They do have fixed, and some DMs will go, onto the spells. I can pick okay, it looks like we lost connection for a moment. I'm sorry. Alright, so I was going into spells. I can pick another spell, because every time you level up, you can pick more spells. You're gaining experience, you're gaining knowledge, so you get to pick more things. As a magic caster, I get to pick more spells. There's Thunderwave. Thunderwave is one of my favorites to use, because essentially, with a bard, I'm imagining it like I'm just taking the lute and I'm just blasting the strings, like just slamming down and causing a wave of sound to go out. And that, like I said, this is up to your imagination. And even the game does it like this. Like you play your instrument and the sound goes out in a wave. Animal Friendship, you play and it's like a soothing little sound kind of thing. It's a whole bunch of things like that. I could do Speak with Animals. But I'm going to do Thunderwave, because Thunderwave is really useful, especially when you get surrounded, and that's what happens a lot, especially when you're going up against large groups. I also have the ability to replace a spell. This is a variant rule. not all DMs are going to allow this, but every time you level up, you can replace the spells that you know, is kind of how it goes, or every so many levels you can. And because it's built for a party of 4, it's going to let me do this. Okay, so it automatically levels up her. Like, she'll automatically level up. All I have to do is hit accept. But I'm going to go through this. So her health increased from 20 to 27. Another spell slot unlocked. Channel Divinity charges. Alright, so Channel Divinity is turn undead and an effect determined by your domain. So depending on your domain depends on what you can do with your Channel Divinity. Like, say, take the Life Cleric, for instance. The Life Cleric can turn undead, and then they also have a thing where they channel their divinity, and everything, when you do healing actions of any kind, rather than rolling, you would take that dice, and the highest possible number you could ever get is what they heal for. So a healing potion heals for 1d4 plus 2. Instead of doing 1d4 plus 2, you would get 6 back because of that Channel Divinity from the Life Domain Cleric. She is a Trickery Domain Cleric, so she's also a follower of Shar. Shar is a deity that focuses on secrets and keeping secrets, secrecy, and loss. That's sort of that deity's domain. So we've got turn undead. So undead have to make a saving throw, and if they fail, they become frightened and they have to run away. They are forced to run away. Much like the undead in movies and media, such as like the exorcism movies, things like that, or when they see something that's holy or sacred, they turn away and they try to run away in fear. If they're more powerful, they go towards it and try to destroy it. Alright, so this is part of the Channel Divinity for Trickery Domain, Invoke Duplicity. You create an illusion next to yourself, and it causes enemies to distract. It distracts enemies, is what it does, and they focus on attacking the illusion. Both the attacker and the creature must be within 10 feet of the illusion. That's the setup, though. Essentially, it's the old gag of, oh, look, over there, and then taking advantage of the fact. That's what it is. So with that, I hope that's covered somewhat of essentially all the basics.
How much farther can I
When you might come across things that cause you to do a saving throw. A saving throw is essentially you would roll a d20. Alright, Wizard Bane. Okay, coat your weapons in oil. Target receives a -3 to all penalty to all spell attack rolls, spell save DC, and disadvantage on saving throws for maintaining concentration for 2 turns. So it's useful to have when you're fighting magic users. We have a poor, unfortunate soul here. Oh, they have a locket. Okay, a dagger. That might be useful. Gold. That might be useful. Another rapier. That might be useful as well. And pale mint. That's a camp supplies. I might be able to hawk that off at a seller, so I'm going to take that as well, because it does have value. Okay, so back onto saving throws. Saving throws, let's say you get hit with an area of effect spell, and it's going to call for a saving throw. So, let's see. Let's go here. Saving throw bonus. Okay. So let's say I get hit with a fireball spell, and I have to make a dex saving throw. I would roll a d20, and because it's a dexterity thing, because I'm trying to dodge the fireball, I would add a +6. So I'd get +2 from dexterity and +4 from my proficiency in dexterity saving throws. So whenever I roll, like, alright, so let me take this d20 and I'll roll. Let's say the saving throw is a 14. You have to roll a 14 or take full damage, or you have to roll 14 or higher, take full damage, or if you take a 14 or lower and you get half damage. Let's say the damage is 39. I rolled a 4 +6. That would be 10. I failed. I take the full 39 damage. And at this point, because I only have 34 hit points, but I'm down to 27, I'm going to take the full damage and I'm going down. I am being knocked unconscious, and I have to start doing something called death saving throws. Death saving throws, you roll a d20. Okay, I failed. I dropped it into my seat, so let me re-roll that. So you roll a 10 or a higher. You go unconscious in battle, you start doing something called death saving throws. You roll. Okay, so I rolled a 5. That would be a fail. You have 3 chances. You have 3 tick marks on fail and save. If you fail 3 times, your character dies permanently, and you have to roll a new character. Alright, so let's say my turn again. I rolled again. It's a 16. That's a success. That's a fail and a save. So my turn comes around next. Let's say my allies are too preoccupied to help me and heal me, because you can heal someone who's on their death saving throws and prevent them from having to make death saving throws. So let's say you have a character that has cure wounds. You can use cure wounds on them and make it to where they don't have to do the saving throws. Alright, so I just rolled again a 17, so that's 2 successes and 1 fail. Alright, so I just need 1 more success, or I need 1 more, or 2 more fails. Alright, so that would be a 9. That would be a fail, so now I'm at 2 and 2. So I'd roll again on my next turn. That's a 14, so yay, I passed. My character stabilizes and has 1 hit point, but I'm still unconscious. I need someone to help me or heal me to get me back up on my feet, is how that works. That being said, that is pretty much most of the mechanics that I can think of on how to play. Now, where to find this stuff? Look up tabletop gaming stores in your area. Look up, you can go on to dndbeyond.com. Let me save game. And yeah, you read that right. There's a Steven Rogers. That's one of my modded ones. I don't have any of the mods applied, so I can't fire that one up yet. It'll crash. Essentially, I made a Captain America character that got dropped in Faerun, which is the name of this world. Alright, so let's let me go and switch over to character sheet. Nope, not character sheet. There it is, main. Alright, so we go here. Alright, so D&D Beyond. You can create a free account on D&D Beyond and make up to 5 characters, I believe. There are memberships where you can make more. $2.17 a month and $4.58 a month. And that gives you access to more things. Alright. So, you have things like when you do get these things, you can also do things like homebrew collection, things like that, depending on your tier. Free tier doesn't have access to homebrew unless you're in a campaign that somebody else has it. Somebody with a high enough tier can actually share all of the access that they have to all the books. So typically, only one person, much like in real life, only one person really has to have all the books, or a bunch of people can have different books, and they'll have access to all this knowledge and all this supplemental stuff to help increase the flavor to your game. So, much like, alright, so we go to my campaigns. My campaigns, I have a whole bunch of stuff that I'm in. Character vault, that's something that we made, so that way let's see here. That was a one shot that we made for this was a one shot, one of the one shots we made. That was for the Veterans Day charity one shot in last November that I was in. This campaign right here, this Mill Talk alternate campaign, well, it says DM's Two Wolf Design. No, that one's actually my own campaign that I run on Sunday nights on this channel. If you'd like to see how the virtual tabletop roleplay does here on Twitch, typically weekly on Sunday nights at around 7:30 Central Time, I fire this up and we play in that world. So that's another one that streams. Two Wolf Design, they stream their Wednesday night campaigns, typically, if they can get the thing to work. And we're going to also be doing a Star Wars theme. See, D&D, the 5e rules, you have a whole bunch of other things that you can go to. So let me show you some other stuff. You have Star Wars 5e, where it's basically the 5th edition rules, but it's in the Star Wars universe. You have the more famous ones that utilize the Dungeons and Dragons 5e stuff, that Critical Role with Matt Mercer. If you ever want to watch that stuff, definitely look that stuff up on YouTube. That campaign is amazing and would be a good way to also get a good idea on how to play, because when they first started out, it was literally just some minis, and then he was drawing out in marker on a map. Now they've got full terrains and everything, but they started out pretty basic too. But essentially, yeah, if you'd like to watch an actual TTRPG being played on a virtual mode, at the very least, on Sunday nights, I run one here on Foundry. Where it takes place on a homebrew continent that I made. But yeah, as you can see, you've got something that looks similar. You'll have your town maps. Okay, these are the different things that you can run across in the IRL game, in real life games, and virtual games such as this, as opposed to the Baldur's Gate maps, and so on and so forth. So let me quit that one. Alright, there we go. So now we're back here. So yeah, you'll have city maps such as this. You'll have other city maps that can look like this. I pulled this one off of a Twitter account that was offering free maps for use. I cannot remember the name of the Twitter account right now. Then you have things like this. this is an inn that I created using Dungeon Alchemist. Dungeon Alchemist you can find on Steam. It's sort of like an AI building tool where you can make maps, and that one's pretty cool to play with. And it automatically generates things in like a room, and then you can edit it and everything. You also have continent maps where it shows the vast majority of the continent as well. So I hope that all of this has helped you learn the absolute basics of D&D, and I hope that it encourages you to go out and try it for yourself at some point. I might stream some more Baldur's Gate 3 stuff later on, I do not know. But I thank you for your time, and thank you for being patient with me as I stumbled through this, because this whole speech and everything was improv, if you couldn't already tell. Anyways, have a good day, and hope you enjoyed the show.